What's going on my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful people? Welcome back to another video. And in this edition of Toastmasters Evaluations, we're gonna be going over 3 tips to improve your public speaking and a couple of bonuses to where if you have some of the things you gotta train like I do, a couple of bonuses that'll improve your situation. If you're new here, essentially in this series, I do Toastmasters on a weekly basis, and once a month I do a prepared speech where I speak to the crowd on something motivational, educational, inspirational, or I try to hit somebody's heartstrings or tell an example of my life. Part of me wanting to get better at learning and public speaking and helping you guys improve at the same time. In this video, we're gonna be evaluating my Toastmaster speech about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how you can use that to be a better coach, manager, and leader. I also have a bonus clip of my evaluation from my fellow Toastmasters. So stick around, let's watch this clip, and then we'll break it down afterwards. I promise you, I'm better than this. You just caught me at the worst place at the wrong time, and I'm trying to get out of this hole. I was about up to here with the coach I used to have. And we were going back and forth as to, I need you to show up and do 100% of your job, and him showing up and saying, I'm giving you 100% of what I have. Those 100% weren't correlating. Being a leader and being a mentor and a manager and owning a business, you have to continually be educating and helping those who work with you grow. So I'm somebody who is going to give you feedback. I want you to be the best that you can be, and that only happens through correction. Now, as much as we all say, I take feedback really well, a lot of us, that's not quite the truth. Because depending upon the mind state we're in, the stage of our life that we're in, someone says, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, and you feel attacked. Because in that moment, it's not just the conversation and communication currently happening, it's everything else that's going on behind the scenes that you're feeling pent up with. Today, I want to tell you guys about a theory that once I learned it, made a lot of sense, and since then has been a tool that I use anytime I'm coaching anyone to be in a better situation than they currently are. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And essentially, it is a pyramid that says at different stages in your life, this is what you should be expected to be focusing on. At the very bottom are very basic needs: food, water, shelter, the things we need for life. And the very top things are when you get into the spiritual and subconscious of what is the purpose of all of this, once you've gotten past all the material possessions that you desire to acquire. So I've begun to use this when I'm working with my coaches and clients because I need to know what stage you're currently in. If you're at the bottom to where you're always stressed because you have no food on the table, you're in between jobs, things like that, you're gonna be a little bit more high strung. And until you secured these core needs that make you feel safe, you're not gonna be able to think about grander things or other nuances. You're worried about what are you gonna have to eat that night, where are you gonna sleep that next day. So when I say, hey, I need you to say this announcement with a little bit more enthusiasm, the voice in your head goes, I don't have time for that, I have bigger things to worry about. Now, as a manager, someone who has to make sure that you're hitting a sales goal or a certain metric, I still have to make sure that that happens. But it is my job to manage the business, not to manage your personal life. Now that sounds like a winning strategy, but we all know if we've ever had a manager, if it's always just do better, do better, do better, never how can I make your day better, we don't work that hard. Using Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I get to have an assessment, if you will, of what kind of communication do I need with this individual based on the state they're currently in. So that coach I spoke about earlier, he was in a particular living shifting situation. He had been out of work for about a year and gotten to a point where he could no longer pay the bills over it for his apartment. So when I came to him and said, hey man, I need you to be a little bit more in our clients' faces and push them. They want somebody who's gonna be watching their form, cheering them on so that when they want to give up, they can vibe off of your energy. You've been very flat. And he keeps coming in saying, I'm here and I'm doing my job. I didn't say you weren't doing your job. I was saying I would do it better. So I started asking, what's going on? Why do you feel like I can tell that you're stressed out a little bit. Clearly there's something going on outside of the gym that you're losing sleep, literally. He told me about his situation and I said, okay, I can understand that now. I see why you don't want to be in somebody else's face because you're penting up a bunch of anger. You're really worried. Maybe you're holding back tears. I can understand it now. But without having that metric of an assessment of what stage are you in, how am I supposed to know that there's other things clouding your judgment and hindering your performance? One of the things I found particularly interesting about Maslow's hierarchy is that each of these levels needs to be unlocked, if you will. We've all probably had a friend who was trying to get into a relationship that they probably weren't ready for. They wanted intimacy so bad that they were willing to forego going to work a couple days. I've got sick time. Then they get into a situation where because they've taken time off or they've kind of ditched their other friends to be with the significant other, they're starting to feel lost. They no longer have a community. Maybe their job is now threatened. Now they don't have the comfort of a place to lay their own head. Although this person was perfectly fine, at any point in time you can have a season that shifts and you move amongst these rings of the ladder. Now, the one that I come in contact with the most, and it's in my industry, is the sense of community and belonging. We went through a portion of time where we were all very isolated. We were told to keep each other at a distance. And now I do believe that our culture is making a dramatic swing into the opposite. A lot of you guys are looking for things to do with groups of people like Toastmasters. If you are doing fitness, you know that it's a difficult grind on your own, but if you have an accountability partner, you'll last a lot longer. So I sit here and when I go through consultations with clients, I say, what is your community like? I say, what support systems do you have? I ask them what their goals are, and I even ask them why they have these goals, because these questions really help me assess where do I need to meet you at your halfway. I don't have support at home. Actually, because a relationship just ended, I now have the time to take care of myself. Awesome. I can help you from there. Some people are in a creation period, other people are in a destruction period, but regardless of what it is, having different tools in your toolbox of how to better understand the person you're working with only improves the situation. So I encourage you guys to find a theory, find a reason that's gonna help you dig deeper into the person you're talking to. Because if performance has slumped, you know it's probably not because they want to be bad. Even if you misunderstand something or you're not good at something, you don't wanna be there, you wanna get better. So being somebody who wants to help the world be a better place, when you're giving feedback, ask some questions, figure out where that person is so that you know what their capacity is and where you can squeeze in a little bit of growth without stressing them out. Thank you. All right, now that we've watched the speech, if I were to rate it, if my last speech, if you missed that video, go back and watch that. My last speech, probably about a 6 out of 10. This one, definitely about a 7 out of 10. Not my best work, not bad by any means, but I feel like I got my point across. The content was good, but as usual, there's some things that are a little rough around the edges and that I can clean up on. And in this video, we're gonna go through those. All right, now we've seen the clip and I've got my notes on my phone because I wanna go with you guys. 3 tips on how we can improve our public speaking. And some of them are more specific to myself. I kind of have those as bonuses, but the other 3 are if you're speaking about anything, these tips can definitely help you out. All right, the very first tip, have a good hook and intro. In my speech, I just dropped you right into the conversation that I was having with my first example. So although it may have been initially disorienting, I feel like as I began to speak about it, it was kind of clear of, oh, this is a hard conversation that's gonna happen. And then it brings you into what was the outcome, how did I handle it? So having a good hook and intro is super important just because when you're putting out content, you wanna make sure that people are engaged from the jump. And to do that, you do want to make sure that you have something that gets their attention really quick. A kind of bonus tip to not only just a good hook, but an intro. So I dropped you in a conversation, but then I tried to make sure I laid out what my goal was of this speech. And for me, it was, I want to educate you guys and tell a couple stories. And it would help if I gave the full context of what is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what are all 5 levels, and then kind of let you guys in on specifically, we're gonna work on these 2, because these 2 are the ones that I have examples and stories for, and that's what you're gonna walk away with. Your listeners, in certain circumstances will want to know, what am I getting into? So having that good hook that gets their attention, and then giving them the itinerary of, this is what you should be prepared for. Tip number 2, and it kind of includes the first and last tip, but essentially have some structure to your talking points. It's one thing to say, this is first one, this is second, but even having something that people can follow really well, you tell them what's to come, and then you lay it out where this is item 1, this is item 2, with the appropriate transitions. It brings a lot of structure, and it makes what you're talking about make more sense, and people will be able to follow along the journey with you. So for example, with the 2 that I was highlighting in my speech, which was the physiological needs and the love and belonging, being able to say that we're going to talk about this, and then I can go into my stories and examples and then transition. The second item being this is my story, this is what I got out of it, and then we transition to either your next point or even a conclusion. In this speech, I just had 2 points I wanted to share, staying within my time window. So it was one transition between the 2, and then a transition into the conclusion. And the point number 3, wrapping it all up, having a strong conclusion. A good speech leaves somebody either motivated or curious or anything in between. So in my example, if you're delivering a lot of information, you do want to kind of put a bow on it, dot the I's, cross the T's, so everybody knows, of all the things we just discussed in these past points, this is what you want to walk away from, or this is what I encourage you to try to do. So having that conclusion that says, for me, next time you end up in a hard conversation, stepping out of yourself and saying, what am I going through? What is the other person going through? What stage of this pyramid may they be in? And what are they currently motivated by, running away from, getting ready for? Because Maslow's hierarchy of needs can help you really get better with communication with the person that you're speaking across. So ultimately, like I said before, it was a good speech. There's always room for improvement. And that's why I'm going to keep making these videos, so that you guys can watch me learn in real time. I can get these benefits from them, because there's a lot of truth that you see when you have a video. And then when you break down that video, you can see the areas where this could improve, that can improve, and there's no such thing as perfect. And getting those reps in are what's going to keep making me better, you better, us better. So if you like the video, go ahead and hit that thumb. If you want to look forward to other Toastmasters videos, or you are an inspiring speaker yourself, drop that subscribe. If you're just here for the family and fitness content, there's more of that coming. But yeah, as usual, you guys, all the links for the affiliates and what I'm into is in the description. Grab yourself a Dad Gang hat for yourself, or a father you know who's doing the damn thing. You can save 15% off using my links, and I will catch you guys in the next one.
I really enjoy whenever he speaks, so I'm gonna talk about 3 things that I wanna touch on. I'm gonna first talk about his delivery, I'm gonna talk about his content, and I'm gonna challenge him to take a risk every time that he makes a speech. First, let's talk about the content. Mack. We have gotten to know the club members, particularly regular speakers like Mack, and his content was right on spot, showing exactly who he is. You are a leader, not just with his club, but we can tell that you're a business owner, that you mentor your employees. And I really enjoy how you combine that leadership theme with a very practical Maslow's law theory of hierarchy of needs. That helped us understand Maslow's theory into a very practical way that we can apply to ourselves. Let's talk about your delivery. You asked me to look at 2 things: your pace in your speech and your pace, physical pace. I did, when you mention it, yes, you do speak a little fast. And I think you probably have been told that before, and that's why you asked me. However, I think that is part of your personality. I think that made it more conversational, because that's who you are. Could you slow down a little bit? Perhaps that was part, some people, when they slow down, they make a little bit more impact. But I will say that is part of your personality, so don't sweat it. Pacing. I did notice you waited and you paced. And you did get behind it very subtly. You had your notes here, and you went like that. And watch the video. You'll notice you went like this, not distracting at all. But I can tell how you are trying to make it more engaging with others. So I will say, sure, pacing might be long, but as long as you make it purposeful, as long as it helps you take a look at your notes, you can use it on your advantage. However, I'm going to challenge you for a risk, and I think you know what I'm going to say. I can think of you doing a TED Talk. Taking away the iPad. You use it perfectly, but if you take away the iPad and you speak from your heart like you always do, you'll need it, and that will take you to the next level.